Chef AJ, thank you so much for joining us again on the Plan Trainers podcast.
Well, it's my pleasure, and this time I get to actually see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've changed things up here. We're in the 2020s now.
2020s.
2020s, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had you back on the show in episode 211, and this is episode 342. So we've come a long way since then. And
Wow.
We're back. We're in the modern age now.
Yeah, and for those people who can't see, Chef AJ's eating a shirt that says, eat your damn
She's
broccoli.
not eating the shirt.
I'm
She's
not
wearing
eating it.
Oh, did I say eating a shirt? Oh my gosh.
She's actually wearing it.
She's wearing a shirt. Maybe I didn't have enough for lunch. She's wearing a shirt that says, eat your damn broccoli. And it's kind of cute. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out on YouTube. Chef AJ, do you have something that you're grateful for today?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm really grateful for animal rights activists, and I don't give them enough credit for the work they do. I just recently got admitted to the American Vegan Society Speakers Bureau, and I talk a lot about weight loss and health, which is obviously really important. But my roots are in being a vegan. I mean, I'm still a vegan, but I became vegan in 1977, 43 years ago, for ethical reasons. I was on the front lines. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do what they do. And I'm grateful for them because they're unsung heroes. And not even just people that are vegan animal activists, but even people that aren't, that do animal rescue, that work at the shelter. I'm grateful for them. Every day I volunteer with an organization called Animal Samaritans, where I take my little rescue dog Bailey into schools, pre-K to about 6th grade, to do what's called humane education. And the people that work for these organizations, they're generally not highly paid, and they work very hard, and they have to see things that none of us will probably see in our life. And I saw it once actually with them, and I'm really grateful for what they do, because I couldn't do it, and it needs to be done. And so all of you, that whether you've rescued one animal from the shelter or do this as your career, thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, when there were so many cats when we went to rescue our little OB, there were so many cats there, and our kids kind of fell in love, and, they go to farm sanctuaries, and we see how hard people work, and it's mostly volunteers. Actually, I love what you're doing with your little dog. Our daughter's looking right now. If anybody here in Toronto is listening, she's looking for a pig that will travel to her school to do animal education at the school. She wants people to understand that pigs are friends, not food. And instead of try to gather people up to go to the farm, she wants to bring the farm right into the school.
That is a great idea. What I've started doing here, I moved a year ago out of Los Angeles to the desert near Palm Springs, and I started a reading program in libraries where kids, this is a national program, but it was never in the Coachella Valley. And so we go to 3 different libraries in many schools where kids read to Bailey or other dogs, because reading is really important. And sometimes if kids struggle, with grown-ups that criticize them, or teachers that say, you can't pronounce that word, dogs don't care.
Yeah, dogs don't care. I hope when I taught kindergarten, I didn't sound like that. So gonna switch gears a little bit. I was kind of preparing for this episode, which I do for every episode, and you have been inducted into the Vegetarian Hall of Fame. So
yeah, that
first
was
of all,
a surprise.
I
cool.
didn't know that congratulations, first of all. I
Thank
didn't
you.
know that existed. And knowing your personality, I thought that maybe that was a joke. So
it's so funny. NAVS, North American Vegetarian Society, that puts on the yearly Vegetarian Summerfest in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, have been doing it, I guess, for over 40 years. And people that are in there are people that I've admired forever, like, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Campbell, Gandhi, for example. This year's inductee, I believe, was Dr. Michael Greger. And I knew about it, and I thought, back in my mind, just like, if you're an actress, you probably think, gosh, it'd be nice to win an Oscar. I thought, boy, that would be cool. But you just kind of think about it. And then when they did it, they don't tell you. That's the thing. And they do kind of this is your life. And I was trying to go home, and I looked terrible. This is why I don't like surprises. I was wearing sweats, no makeup. And then I'm there for the little ceremony, and, they're starting to say who it is. And then when they said Los Angeles, California, I'm like, oh no, it's me. Because how many people were there from Los Angeles. Not too many, but yeah, it was a great honor. It's a great organization. And especially if you have kids, Summerfest is one of the funner, because cruises are nice, but they're not always kid friendly, but Vegetarian Summerfest is, and it's a really great experience. And I'm actually looking at the award right now, which is a clock. And I think about that every day, because when I look back on my life, whenever it ends, the thing that I am most proud of is all the animals I saved. And I didn't save them the way animal activists do by being on the front lines. I saved them by not eating them for 43 years and educating as many people as I can not to eat them. Not just because it's not nice for the animal, but it's not good for you. It's not good for the planet.
Yeah. It's not. And what I wanted to know is, I kind of envision, do they give you a square pan of mashed potatoes and have you stick your hand into it and sign your name?
That is a good idea, but they haven't done that. No, they just call you on stage, and they do Mary Beth Abrams just did a beautiful kind of presentation of my life. And I mean, I was crying. It was really, really I was really in shock, because I was sitting in the back, and I was telling to my friend, I'm like, can we go? Because I was trying to get home, and she's like, no, I really want to see this part where the kids sing. And I'm like, okay. And they go, and from Los Angeles. And I'm like, oh no, it's me. And then I had to think really quick, what am I going to say? But yeah, it was wonderful. And they're a wonderful organization. And yeah, I think I look at it every day from my office, and I'm like, cool. And every day that I don't eat animals, I'm saving them. And it's just so cool.
Huge honor. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
We're very proud of you. And yeah, the way that you do it is, you haven't eaten animals for so long, and you are constantly giving people the tools that they need to not eat animals as well. And specifically, going back to your story that we talked about in episode 211 of being overweight before becoming plant-based, vegan, what have you, you're specifically looking to work with the overweight population to help them understand nutrient density and cut the food addiction and be themselves and feel like themselves.
Right. Well, I'll always have a job then, because they say right now between 70 to 90% of people are overweight, and, probably more than half of them are obese, whether they're vegan or not. And yeah, I find that because not every job I have is a vegan job, like I'll get hired to speak, and actually it's about calorie density, but nutrient density is involved, because luckily the foods that are lowest in calorie density are highest in nutrient density, which of course are vegetables. But I'll get hired to speak at medical conferences in hospitals that are not vegan or plant-based, or on cruise ships or in spas. And it's a nice way to draw people in. Not that I'm ashamed of being a vegan, but I don't even have to mention veganism when I teach calorie density, because Mother Nature skewed it in favor of vegetables. And since most people I meet, especially women, want to lose weight, they might even do something radical like not eating animals, which are very high in caloric density and of course have no fiber. So I found it's a good way to get more people in that wouldn't want to do it. And then plus I still do all my vegan stuff. I'm always writing new recipes for vegans or for other people as well.
So when you're doing these talks, you said sometimes you don't even mention plant-based or vegan. Do you not talk about meat at all, or you still show that picture with the stomach where you're showing this is how much?
Picture with the stomach, and I don't ever actually mention meat. But what always happens, and this happens even sometimes at plant-based conferences, because I didn't put the calorie density of animal products on my chart, which I have about eating to the left of the red line, and that's because there's not one number. So for example, vegetables are about 100 calories per pound, regardless of the vegetable. But animal products range a lot, because, a high fat pork or fish could be 1,600 calories a pound. A game meat could be 800. So the average calorie density of animal products is about 1,000. So of course I answer that, but then that gives me an opportunity to talk even further why animal products are so deleterious, not just because they're animal products, but they have no fiber. And we talk about how important fiber is. There's no fiber in animal products. There's no water. There's no micronutrients. So I talk about them without talking about them. So, I'm not ashamed of saying I'm vegan, but for places that want me to tone it down, I still get invited to speak. And then people, sometimes they'll say, oh, is this vegan? I'm like, yeah, it is when you think about it, but it works out good,
I think it's really important to talk about calorie density, but before we get there in more detail, if we go there, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that you're not just focusing on weight loss. While that's the title of everything you're focused on, tell us a little bit about what else is impacted by people carrying around all that extra weight, and the reason that they need to focus on weight loss, because I don't want people turning this off thinking, you know what, I'm not overweight. I don't need to listen to this show because you're just talking about weight loss.
Yeah. Absolutely not. And the funny thing is even people that are not visually overweight can be overweight inside, meaning they can have too much visceral fat around their internal organs. This is something that Dr. Furman talked a lot about in the Truth About Weight Loss Summit. So you can still be over fat without being overweight by having too much fat around your internal organs. So this is important for everybody to learn, I think. And one of the things I didn't know is, and again, we never want to shame or blame or make anybody overweight feel bad. That has never been my intention. I weighed like 200 pounds in my 20s. I weighed 160 when I was 11 years old. I was overweight or obese for over 50 years. But there's been an upsurge, especially in the United States, not so much in places like Japan, where health at every size. And what I've learned from interviewing now 50 medical doctors on this subject is that that's kind of a myth, that people do come in a wide variety of sizes, and not everybody's going to be, model thin. It's just genetically impossible. But that carrying excess weight, even 30 pounds, which is pretty normal now in the United States for a woman. They say the average woman, I believe, is 5'4" and 166 pounds, carries with it profound health risks and even cancer. We always think about things like diabetes, joint pain. And so I want people to live their best life and live in a body that is comfortable, that's going to be around a long time. And losing weight, even losing some weight, a lot of people have a lot of weight to lose, but even losing some weight is going to make a difference in how they feel, how they look, and what diseases they get or don't get.
And of course, we're not necessarily talking about the weight that the scale gives us, because somebody who's been sedentary and begins to work out and get more muscle mass, the fat loss might be then taken up by muscle gain. So the scale might not change, but they'll look tighter, they'll feel tighter, their organs will be in better shape, and their body will be able to heal them or keep off this illness further down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So, people can change their body size regardless of what the scale is showing them, because that's what we are interested in, fat loss. If we're just interested in weight loss, cut off your arm. That's, I don't know, what does an arm weigh, like 10, 15 pounds? No, we're interested in fat loss, because fat, what I've learned from some of the speakers is fat is actually an organ. It's a metabolically it's like a thing. It's not just something that we think of as unsightly. It's like alive, and we don't want too much of it, especially around our internal organs.
And what about people who are overweight and confident in their body, but don't feel as if they would be healthier if they were lower weight? So what do we have to say there?
God bless them if they're comfortable. Being healthy is not court ordered. It should be in some cases, I think, especially where children are overweight or obese, because that kid did not go and get that food themselves. But just be as healthy as you can. Then if you're happy with your size, you still want to have good habits. You still want to eat some vegetables. You still want to exercise. So, we can't help everybody, but the ones that want to be educated, that's what we're here for. But if you're happy with yourself at your size and you feel good, who am I to tell you need to lose weight? That's not what I'm doing. It's for people that really want to. I figured out a way that's easy, inexpensive, delicious, where you get to eat a lot of food and be as slender as you desire. So
where do people get into trouble when they're used to yo-yo dieting through portion control and then switch over to a plant-based diet but can't get the portion control out of their head?
Yeah, that they almost need some therapy. And I don't mean it like in a mean way. I mean like a session with Dr. Doug Lisle, somebody that can really set them straight. Because, I think it was Einstein that said you can't create today's problem with yesterday's mind. I know I'm botching the quote, but the idea is portion control only works as long as you're willing to portion control. And so these weighing and measuring programs have great data on how many people lose weight, but not how many people keep it off, because almost 98% of people that lose weight gain it back. One of the things Dr. Furman said on the Truth About Weight Loss Summit is that if your results are going to be sustainable, they have to be permanent. So you have to decide what is it you're willing to do that you can do the rest of your life. And I'll tell you, I have never met a person other than the people that run the weighing and measuring programs that can weigh and measure the food the rest of their life and bring their little food scale to the restaurants. It's not sustainable. And I'm trying to think of which speaker I believe it was Dr. Greger that I interviewed on the summit, because he looked at every research and he absolutely said it's not. And a lot of times it's really hard because people are grossly under eating on these programs. So it backfires. So they not only gain the weight back and gain more. And so they sometimes just have to trust the process. Sometimes that means going somewhere like a McDougall Live-In program or True North, where you are eating what we call ad libitum, and the weight is falling off, eating pounds and pounds of things like potatoes, rice, and beans. It's very hard to change the mindset, especially of women who have been taught that the only way to weigh less is eat less, when in reality, if you understand calorie density, as taught by Dr. Barbara Rolls, Dr. John McDougall, Dr. Dean Ornish, myself, you literally can eat more and weigh less and eat twice as much food and yet take in half as many calories. I was told by Dr. Doug Lyle when I met him almost 10 years ago that I didn't have mental problems that caused me to be overweight, that I had math problems. And my mental health is the same as it is, but what has changed is the food.
Yeah. And how did you do in math in elementary school?
Oh my God. I had to have a tutor. I was terrible. I actually had to have a tutor. I was pretty much a straight A student, but when it came to numbers, because I'm dyslexic, I remember his name was Bill Geller. I wonder if he's still around. I always had to have a tutor just to almost get a B. And I remember my high school math teacher, Mr. Anderson, finally, and he saw I was struggling. The problem was I didn't know I was dyslexic until college when a professor diagnosed it. I don't know how I skated through. That would have helped to know. But I remember my high school math teacher, Mr. Anderson at Grant High School, saying, just forget the math. You should be a comedian, because I was always really funny in school and always the class clown. And I thought about that. And I did try to be a comedian for a while. I've been on The Tonight Show and a few other shows like Letterman and Leno, Ellen, but, I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, I occasionally.
Just a couple of shows.
Yeah, no, occasionally I'll get out there and I'll do some kind of performance, because it's really hard. And I'm going to be 60. And so I'm thinking about going back to it, though. I really am. I don't know what the opportunities are in the desert, because in LA, they were great. But I really do like performing improv comedy. So who knows, you may see me in a show one of these days.
Oh, that would be totally exciting. And
Yep.
I love that you're almost 60. I love that you just said that. And I think that you should tell everybody that. Like, if you meet somebody like in line at the grocery store, you should be like, hi, I'm Chef AJ and I'm almost 60. Nobody's going to believe you.
Right. Well, I think I'm going to get, like, this t-shirt didn't have made, but I do make my own t-shirts, and I actually have a friend that does. And I think I'm going to get one that says, this is what 60 looks like, ... if you're vegan.
Yeah. Love it. Love it.
I think I will. Yes.
So good. So getting back to eating double the amount, getting back to out of those portions. So what is your take on eating consistently smaller things all day long versus eating meals when you have time to, and you're eating the same amount of calories, you're eating the same amount of nutrient density, but instead of it being all day long, it's kind of in chunks?
Yeah. Well, I think people have to do what works for their lifestyle. But when, I don't know if you read Dr. Greger's new book, How to Diet, but, a lot of the experts are talking about this concept of intermittent fasting now as being not just a weight loss tool, but a health tool, where you're shortening the feeding window to about 8 or 9 hours a day. And there seems to be some evidence that it's a good thing to do. Not even if you're at a good weight, just for longevity. And so if people are eating smaller meals within that window, it's probably okay. But some people are just literally eating all day. And I think that has to do with a lot of things. It could be emotional reasons. It also could be because they still have this strict weighing and measuring mindset that they're really afraid to eat to satiety. I personally don't have time. Obviously, if somebody had gastric bypass, they're not going to be able to eat the volume of food that I eat, which is like 2 pounds of vegetables and 1.5 pounds of potatoes for lunch. It's not going to work for them. They do have to eat smaller meals. But see, I need a lot of food to feel full. And also, I just don't have time to keep taking breaks like that. And I think it was Dr. Furman also, a great interview, by the way, who said that we're not meant to be digesting food all day. We need longer periods. I think he talks about the catabolic versus the anabolic phase. And that, for most people, 2 or 3 meals are enough. But again, you have to be eating enough calories for those 2 or 3 meals to be enough.
So if we keep eating all those calories, are we not going to be concerned about putting on weight? So like people are going to say, like, if I don't eat the calories, I'm just going to lose the weight, like we talked about before, the math thing. So people need to start differentiating between the types of calories they're consuming, or are all calories equal?
I don't think all calories are equal. What I'm learning from the experts, and also they're not equal as to when they're eaten. One of the things, even the experts that weren't insisting on what they call it, breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like or pauper. I did not interview one person that ever said it is a good idea to eat after dinner. Though they're showing that those calories are always stored as fat. And so sometimes when you eat can be as important, if not more important, as what you eat. But if you eat the same amount of calories as you need to maintain your weight, you're going to maintain your weight. If you eat fewer, you're going to lose. If you eat more, you're going to gain, regardless of that. But when you understand calorie density, you don't have to worry about when you eat or how much you eat or why you eat. You just have to worry about what, which is fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. Foods of a caloric density of 567 calories per pound or less. You can't be fat. I mean, I talked to Dr. Doug Lyle. You should have him on your show. He's amazing. Like for an hour yesterday, because there was this girl in my program insisting that she had gained 5 pounds in 5 weeks, and then she showed what she was eating. He goes, "It's impossible." And he taught, he says nobody can defy the laws of thermodynamics. You can't get fat on the food that we're recommending. But yet not every, this is the other thing. A lot of people, especially women, well, not men, I've never seen a man do this, but women sometimes have very unrealistic goals as to what a normal or a good body weight is for them. And that's the thing we have to understand, that we all genetically have different shapes and sizes. I mean, I've seen women, they keep losing and losing and their face gets thinner and thinner and thinner and nothing is changing their lower body. That's genetics. It's not going to happen. If you want to change it, you're going to have surgery, right? So I think women have unreal expectations of what a healthy body weight is. And even when they lose weight, they're still stuck in this mindset that they're fat. They have this body dysmorphia. So I think a lot of the work has to be done in here, especially with the ladies, What
about the women who don't know what they look like compared to other women? So they don't actually have a clear vision of how they look to other people or how they look out in public. Is that a thing?
Well, what I've noticed, and I've learned in life, that we seem to develop our worldview of what is normal by those around us. That's why, somebody that grows up in a satanic cult, that for them is normal. That's all they saw. Now, if you're growing up now, everybody almost is overweight. With kids, I believe, under the age of 18, 1 out of 3 is obese. When I went to school in 1960, 1 fat kid per grade, me. Now, most kids are overweight. And so if everybody around us looks that way, we don't feel like and not that there's anything wrong with us. We don't feel like it's a big deal.
But then you turn on your Instagram and everybody on Instagram is a third of the size of you.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
And it's really, really messing people up.
That's why we have eating disorders, especially for women. Yeah. I don't have the answer to that. And it's,
I don't know if there is an answer, but it's a conversation. It's something to think about, right? Yeah.
But people still can get to what is an ideal or appropriate weight for them. It is still possible. You may never listen. If somebody has an account on Instagram where they're in a bikini, that's what they look like. I don't know people that are doing that weighed like 400 pounds and now they're, that. If we all ate the same thing, we're still going to be different shapes and sizes. If you look at like Polynesian or Hawaiian people, they're bigger. They are, right? And certain other types of nationalities like the Asians, they're littler. They have smaller bones. And so you have to accept your genetics, right? You just do. And how do you know your genetics? Look at the people before you. How big were your parents? How big were your grandparents? I was talking to Dr. Lyle yesterday, and he said, it is amazing what you've accomplished considering your genetics. I come from a really fat family. I mean, my father was not obese, but my mother was morbidly obese. Both of her parents were obese. When I think about all my grandfather's, when I think about everybody in my family, the fact that I could not only be not obese, but to be slender, just is a testament that this diet works, right? When I was losing weight, when I really started my weight loss journey 8 years ago, I was 165 pounds and now I'm about 50 pounds less. And once I lost 25 pounds and got down to 540 from my height of 5'6", I was down from a 16 to a 10. I look pretty good. I mean, I remember seeing Brian Wendell, the executive producer of Forks Over Knives, at a fundraiser wearing a size 10 dress. He goes, "Oh my God, you look amazing." And I thought, yeah, I look pretty good. I'm done. I had no idea that if I kept eating this way, the weight would just fall off. You can't keep weight on if you eat, at a lower caloric density. It's just not possible. And you get to eat a lot of food. It really, every day is Christmas. I mean, when I get done with you, I got my lunch waiting. It's about a 1.5 pound roasted Hannah yam and a pound of broccoli. And boy, am I going to enjoy it.
Oh my gosh. We're in
So
between
now
lunch
you're
and
making
dinner
me,
here.
yeah, you're making me
Yeah.
hungry. So you mentioned children before and the rise of obesity that's been happening over the last several years. What do you think is contributing to them getting bigger at a younger age? And what can we do as parents or those listening or teachers, whoever's surrounded with kids around them, to help change that trend that's happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing I would suggest to every parent out there, even before they conceive, is to read. I don't know why. I don't mean to keep talking about Joel Fuhrman today. I like him very much. It's just that he has so many pearls of wisdom. Is read his book, Disease Proof Your Child and Fast Food Genocide. So what's really changed, I think, is the amount of processed food we're eating in this country. We ate it growing up, but the amount that people are eating now is something like, they say, between 67 and 72% of calories for most people. And I know vegans that eat 100% of their calories from processed food. So, animal products, sometimes cheese goes up, sometimes it goes down, but we are just eating too much refined processed foods, specifically things, sugar, flour, oil, that kind of thing, soda. So, as parents, I think they need to educate themselves. A lot of times they struggle too with food addiction, with their weight. And, we got to start cooking again as families. I think that's the thing. Get an Instant Pot, take your kid to the store, have them pick out vegetables. I remember when I interviewed for last year's summit, Dr. Jay Gordon, a very well-known vegan pediatrician, and he said a fat kid never has a good day at school. They don't, but forget about all the maybe the possible bullying or feeling bad about themselves. What about the fact that the Surgeon General has said we now have a generation of children that will not live as longer than their parents? Kids are not supposed to get type 2 diabetes. Kids sometimes get type 1 diabetes, an autoimmune disease. But when I was little, my grandmother had diabetes. She was in her 60s, and they called it adult diabetes. When a child had diabetes, when I grew up, it was called juvenile diabetes. Well, now, because children as young as 6 and 8 years old are getting these adult diseases, they had to rename it type 1 and type 2 to differentiate. So, there is an obesity epidemic. People can, talk about health at every size as long as they want, but they have to look at the reality and the statistics, because kids are not supposed to have diabetes or heart disease or be on statins at 8 years old. It's just not that to me is shameful. So parents really need to, tighten up the screws on their own diet and really acknowledge this, because it's not the kid's fault that they're overweight. They're eating what the parent gave them. And until the kid is old enough to drive, of course you could say, well, they go to school. But when you see, there's kids that are 2 years old that are obese, that have fatty liver disease. How did that happen? I know how it happened because I go to Costco and I see parents at Costco pouring Coke into sippy cups and giving it to what looks like infants.
It's it's so sad. I think we could count on our hand how many times our kids have had soft drinks in it, and I could tell you it's not with us. They go to camp and or they go to friends' houses and they'll make the decisions that they make, but they know that our dollars don't count towards that. And that's why it's so important what you're doing with the Truth About Weight Loss, with that summit, and educating adults. And you do have pediatricians on, and you talk about when adults learn how to take care of themselves, naturally that will begin to fall towards the children. But we need to learn. We need to be educated, because the people who are educating us now are industries that have they have something to gain. So we're getting misfed information.
And adults were not taught this when they were in school. They didn't learn about nutrition. They didn't learn about health the way that they should have been. And so programs like this summit that you have coming up, is super important for people to pay attention to. So maybe you could share with us a little bit about the summit that's coming.
Sure. Well, first of all, not only did adults not learn about nutrition, doctors don't learn about it. Both Absolutely. My brothers are physicians. I have 13 cousins, nieces, and nephews, and all my uncles, and my grandfather was a physician. And the most, I think, any of them got in medical school in 4 years was 4 hours, and some got as little as an hour. I remember when my cousin graduated from medical school, I said, so, hey, what'd you learn about nutrition? And he's like, Well, when I have a burn patient, I have to increase the calories. And even when they do have nutrition, it's not on the boards that they have to take to become a doctor, is my understanding. So you can't fault your doctor. He didn't learn it. So I created the Real Truth About Weight Loss Summit, or the Truth About Weight Loss Summit, because I wanted to know what the real truth about weight loss was. And so each year I try to interview the people that with groundbreaking information. And this year I'm so excited because it took like 7 years to get her to agree to do an interview, at least one that was visual. I was able to interview her on a podcast once, Dr. Barbara Rolls. She is the mother of calorie density. Now, if you're vegan, she may not be somebody you've ever heard of, but everyone bows to her. I don't mean literally, but she has done over 260 research papers based on caloric density that she studies at her laboratory at Penn State University. And this is like the foundation really of every healthy eating plan that's going to be sustainable for weight loss. And so that was just wonderful to talk to her, and talking to Walt Willett of Harvard. I mean, all the other doctors were texting me questions for him. They were so impressed, Dr. McDougall and Dr. Greger, that he was going to be on the summit. So really people that make a difference in nutrition, even people that make a difference in policy. And most of the people are plant-based, but even the ones that aren't, they've contributed so much to giving people the pieces of the puzzle that they need. And, here's the thing, even if you're not overweight, the chances of you knowing somebody that are pretty great, especially people in your family and loved ones. And we want to help them, and we want them to feel their best. And I just think this is I wish I had this summit. If I had this summit, I wouldn't have been in the position I was all the years I was until I learned this information.
Well, we're grateful that you put it together, and we know that our listeners are. And if they want to register for it, it is free. So they could go to bit.ly/PTWLS20. So that's Plant Trainers Weight Loss Summit 20 for year 2020, and they'll be linked to that in the show notes at planttrainers.com and on our social media as well, because we just love what you're doing here, so we wanted to help you to promote it. So that's a free link that they can use themselves, and that they can also share with anybody they love who's overweight or not, because I think education is really something that helps us make good choices going forward, and being able to have really smart conversations with people when they get into conversations as well.
So you've had summits before. What's going to be a little bit different, new, or exciting about this summit that's coming up?
Well, let's see. So one of the things we're doing a little bit differently is we have 32 brand new speakers, but there's going to be 40 speakers because we're going to repeat 8 of them, the ones that got the most traction that people really wanted to hear again, like, for example, Dr. Linda Carney, where she talks about the truth about alcohol and caffeine and its role in weight loss. So every day there'll be 4 brand new interviews, but then there'll be like a throwback for people that have the time to watch it, which I think is great. And we're trying to get even more prizes this year. One of the things that we do a little different than summits is we're running them live. The interviews are pre-recorded, but I'm there with my partner, Toby, and we're listening with you, watching with you, and awarding prizes. So that could be really cool for people that want to win nice things. Unfortunately, it usually has to be United States only, because most companies don't want to ship to other places, and I'm so sorry about that. However, once in a while we get a Canadian company like Instapot that is like, yeah, of course, because they're in Canada. So there's just speakers that you may haven't heard of, like Dr. Sylvia Tara, Stephen Gayonette, who have written amazing books that are going to just, I think, unlock, another door for you. But also, even if people aren't overweight, the 2 psychologists that we have, Dr. Jen Hawk and Dr. Doug Lyle, the things they're talking about, you can use these things for things other than weight loss. Oh, and lots of people like Rosanne Alviera and Howard Jacobs been talking about habit change. So maybe you don't need to lose weight, but maybe you need to exercise. Maybe you need to, save money. Talking about habit change is always going to be useful. So I think it's well-rounded, and I sure had a lot of fun talking to these people.
And remind everybody when it is.
Sure. It starts on Saturday, February 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and it ends on Sunday, February 16th. Sunday will be a shorter day. That'll be the wrap up. So we'll have 8 days of 5 expert interviews a day, 4 new, 1 throwback. And then Sunday, I'll probably do a new lecture and kind of wrap it up.
That's so exciting. We know that we've interviewed a lot of the people from the summit, but it's completely different information where we actually have on the roster. So we just interviewed recently Dr. Jen Hawk, and Dr. Lyle. he's given us lots of promises. He actually said, I really can't make it. I'm traveling. Have Jen go instead of me.
We'll get him.
We'll get him. And talking about Dr. Furman so much today, actually, I was messaging with him last night and he booked this morning. So yeah, so
He's
lots
coming up.
Yeah. So a lot of our listeners are familiar with so many of these people and so many new people. So I really do encourage them to go out there, join the summit, listen, and if they're super excited for it to start and they have just a couple of days until it starts, they can definitely go back to old episodes of the Plant Trainers podcast and take a look at some of those experts who have been on. And we're...
Chef AJ, for people that are listening that are like on the edge, like, yeah, I'll check out the summit, maybe I won't, but maybe, you know what, I'm listening today, maybe Chef AJ could give me 1 or 2 tips for keeping myself healthy. What would you say to them?
Number 1 tip, eat your damn vegetables, because I'm telling you, that is one. I mean, there's a lot of secrets to weight loss, but that is one thing that everyone agrees about. Even people that aren't vegan, we've got to eat vegetables, not just for their high nutrient content and prevention of diseases like Alzheimer's, but they're free, meaning they're so low in calories, you can't go wrong. So if you were to just, whatever you're eating now, whatever eating style, just make half your plate vegetables at every meal. That is going to improve your health. It's going to decrease your weight. And that really is the secret, eating vegetables. I didn't eat them for 43 years. That's how I got to 200 pounds with the beginning of colon cancer. Eat vegetables. The more you eat them, the more you'll like them. Eventually, you'll begin to crave them because the vegetables, especially the dark green leafies like the kales and the collards and spinach, have these compounds called thylakoids, which shut off your hunger switch, fight cravings. Vegetables are magic. They give you beautiful skin, and I can't say enough good things about vegetables. So you need to eat them regardless of what else you're eating. That really is one of the secrets.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for your time. We're so grateful for your time today. We know our listeners have learned something new and that they're grateful as well. And we look forward to the summit.
Well, thank you.